everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week we are continuing on with my Glinda-inspired dress, or Galinda as the case may be, which I started in last week's video. So if you want to check out the first part of this project and you haven't yet, I will link that right down below in the description so you can go watch that one first. But we are continuing on right where we left off last week, which means the bodice pieces are already cut, or at least most of the bodice pieces are already cut, because I mentioned to you in the last video that I was waiting on some power mesh, pink power mesh, to get here from Amazon, which was supposed to be here today. It's not here. I don't know if it was because of Amazon's outage yesterday or what, but the fabric that at least like when I checked about an hour ago said it's arriving today had not even shipped yet, and then two of them they've already bumped those to tomorrow. So hopefully those will be here very soon because I need those to continue with the bodice, but we are able to work on the skirt. So what we're starting off with skirt wise is cutting out all of the strips, like the ruffle strips, for the skirt, because I need a lot of them. I think 11 of them. So I need to cut all of those out. And I also need to mark on the base skirt where those are going to go. Just like where I can, you know, sew those down. But once I get those cut out, then I also need to sew them together end to end, like the correct amount for each of the tiers. I went over all of the math in last week's video, so hopefully you saw that. But I need to connect those end to end, hem them, which in this case, I'm actually only doing a once turned hem, not a twice turned hem, because sequins. So as little sewing through sequins as we can, like many layers, that's great. So we are just turning the hem once. So I'll need to sew those end to end, hem them, and then for the bottom two tiers, I need to run gathering stitches and gather them. I'm nervous about running gathering stitches on sequins. I don't know if it's actually something that I've done before. It probably is, but maybe not on like this densely sequined of a fabric. So hopefully it's going to work out okay, because I really don't want to hand gather all of this, which would be the backup option if machine gathering does not work. But in any case, let's start by going ahead and cutting out those ruffles, and then we can sew them all together. Before we jump into sewing though, don't forget there's only about a week left to sign up for the Costumes and Castles Ireland trip next August 7th through 14th, where we will go and stay at Springfield Castle in Ireland as a group all together with a professional photographer and do a different costumed photo shoot every day and have just a wonderful time staying in Springfield Castle for a week. So if you are at all interested in that trip, again, very limited time remaining to sign up. The link with all of the information about the trip can be found down below in the description, and that link will also tell you how to sign up for the trip. So if you are interested in that, definitely go click that link, and I hope to see you in Ireland. I just kind of wanted to show you how I have been measuring all of these strips for the skirt, and these are all 13 inches wide. And so what I've been doing, since this fabric is slightly sheer, I've been lining up the flat edge, which I guess the very first thing that I did was I went through and I literally with a little friction pen, I went and I looked at the mesh over here and literally drew a line all the way across so that I could hopefully find like the straight grain. And now since then I have been lining up the edge with the edge of my mat here, looking at where 13 inches is up here, lining the ruler across from 13 inches over here to over here, because I can't actually see through the two layers in the middle, and drawing another line with my friction pen and then cutting that line with my old gingers. So these are the ones that I've already replaced. Make sure you don't use good gingers or good scissors at all on sequin fabric, because you'll kill your scissors. But I've been cutting that line and then doing that over again. I have drawn on some lines here, and what's going to happen is that like this one, which is the bottom section, the ruffle, the top of it is going to be butted up against this right sides together. That way I can just line up the edge, the gathered edge with this line, and then I'm going to stitch a 1/2 inch up from that, and it's all going to fall over the stitch so we don't actually see any of the stitching, and it's going to hang down here. And for this bottom one, it is going to hang down about a 1/2 inch past the very hem of this because this is already hemmed. With the other ones, it's going to hang down and overlap the one below it, hopefully by an inch. That's the goal. The top one is going to be a little bit different because the top is actually going to get incorporated into the waist seam with the bodice, which I'm, realizing is going to be even more sequins, layers of sequins to sew together. But basically it's just going to go on flat. It is the same width around as this top as well. So it's just going to go on flat and then it will overhang this right here. So that's how all of those work. I'm going to go sew together a whole bunch of strips of sequins now. All right, so now that I have my 11 ruffle panels cut out and I have all of my lines marked on my skirt where they are going to sew onto, I do also have my little bit left for the sleeves. So I think this should be just fine for the sleeves, but I'm gonna do a mock-up of the sleeves first because I also want to play with the layering of that to see if maybe like any sort of understructure, like a cotton organdy or something like that, is needed in order to give them a little bit more volume, because I mentioned this in the last video, but basically this sequin fabric is kind of droopy and heavy, so it's not going to really want to make the puff that I want it to have without additional structure help underneath. So I will be mocking that up. I can't mock that up really until I have a bodice put together, so we have to wait on the power mesh for all of that. So I am now going to take each of my strips here and figure out like exactly which ones go with which tier of the skirt. Sew them end to end and hem those. And then for the second and third tiers, I'm gonna ruffle those. And hopefully that works out okay. Well, one of the orders of power mesh arrived. I don't know what happened to the other two that were supposed to arrive with it, but I think this is gonna work. I feel like it is reading less pink on camera than it does in person, but you can see the difference here versus here. This is like very purple blue. This I think is reading a little bit more pink, looking a little bit more like when this gets bunched up together. I mean, this is still lighter, but it's not going to be this bunched up anyway. So yeah, I think this is going to work. I am going to continue with creating the ruffles, which is what's happening over here. I have them like labeled, like this is my bottom ruffle. This needs to be hemmed right now and then gathered, but all of the strips are sewn together. Same with the middle one. So I'm going to continue with those and attach them to the skirt. And by then maybe the other power mesh will arrive. We'll see if it's a different shade or the same shade, and we'll be able to determine if this looks like this gathered up over this. This is what I mean by butting up the ruffle like face down, right sides down, up to that line. So I have this all pinned in place right now. I wish it was more gathered than it is. This is the middle ruffle and I had hoped to get this to be 1.5 scale. It's about 20 inches short of that, to be honest. And the bottom ruffle is also going to be about 20 inches short. It just is what it is. It's how much fabric that I had, leaving behind enough for the sleeves. So yeah, unfortunately it's a little bit sparse. You can see it's like barely gathered, but you know what? We have to work with it. So I have been pinning all of this down. I've got one more section left to go because I made kind of notches to match up both 1/3 of the way around. Those are like notches with a little cross on them so that I know that they line up with the seam lines. And then I also made just little dash notches that I then also made dash notches on the purple. Basically, they're halfway between each panel. So that's what I did. And then I just kind of pulled it up and eyeballed it in the middle. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom when I get there. But right now I'm going to finish pinning that last bit on and sew it all in place. The middle tier is attached. It looks somehow very mermaidy when it's just by itself. I'm not really sure why. Next, I'm going to do the bottom tier. I hope that this looks better when the top is all gathered up, because right now it definitely looks rather sad with like the lack of gathers. I mean, obviously it's sparkly as all get out, but the quantity of gathers looks very sad. So I hope that once I actually gather up the top and the entire thing is gathered down like 3-to-1 ratio or something like that. Yeah, 3-to-1 ratio, that this will look a lot better. The bottom tier is on and this one is looking a lot nicer, like in the fullness. I wish that this one looked like this. So we're gonna hope that when I put the top tier on and gather everything up that it looks really good. But part of me is definitely feeling like I made the base of it way too wide, which is basically then preventing the sequins from kind of shining, for lack of a better term, in the way that they ought to in their ruffliness. The other two power meshes have now arrived 2 days late. This one is a little bit more of a like pink as opposed to this one and the one that previously arrived really are more of like a blush pink, which I think is what I want. However, we are still not quite ready for these yet because we still need to like gather up the top of the skirt and put that top tier onto the skirt. So I'm going to do that right now because right now, honestly, the skirt is still reading very purple. So like holding this up, even with the gathers, because it's a lot of like the bottom skirt being gathered, like the cotton is being gathered more so than the actual tiers being gathered, I still think that it's reading quite purple, and I'm almost wondering if the power mesh isn't even necessary. However, one of the other ideas that has come to me to make this a little bit more like Glinda's new dress is maybe I don't want puff sleeves. Maybe I want like power mesh lined of the sequins and just like a longer fitted sleeve. I don't know if I want to go that route, but I want to experiment that route because the power mesh should make it so that the sequins are not itchy on my arms. I might have to do a little bit of something extra at the seam, but it should make it a little bit more feasible. I'm also like, I have to admit, I'm kind of regretting not doing this as a circle skirt base because I do feel like this probably would have wound up looking better as a circle skirt base. But we're going to continue with the method that we're doing right now. I can always change this in the future. But yeah, like this is so wide and this is going to be gathered into my waist with that top tier added. And it's entirely possible that once this is all gathered up, that it is going to still look very much like the fanciful doll dress. And I'm just not seeing the vision right now because of the way that it looks. So hopefully that's what's going to happen. I'm going to add the top tier to it right now and gather it all up. My intention is to actually use basically like the basting stitches as the gathering stitches and not have to stitch it twice. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on right now. We're going to see how it goes. So here's the thing, because of the method that I gathered this up, where really I'm gathering up like the purple with the pink, and yes, the pink is a little bit gathered on top of the purple in these two situations, but it is not up here. The flat actually works fine. Like this is without any mesh underneath. I have not cut any mesh. And it's the same color match. And it's actually definitely giving the more like new Glinda dress vibe, which is really what I want. So yeah, I think we're striking the mesh. However, that does mean that if I want to do a long fitted sleeve, I need a purple mesh instead of presumably the pink mesh, because I would assume that if I were to just look at this with the sequins over it, that it would look different. I guess I have to put my arm under there. So let me see if I can figure out how to hold the camera and do that. Yeah, so that definitely reads more pink. So I think I might see if I can get purple mesh from Amazon instead. I do like the idea of doing this a fitted sleeve to have it a little bit more like her dress. I don't know, I'm still a little bit torn because, you know me, I love a puff sleeve, but it would be kind of cool to have it a little bit more similar to the new dress. So I did something that was potentially foolhardy, but luckily it worked out okay. And that is normally for like flatlining, I will flatline on the serger. Now I generally do not recommend and do not myself use the serger for sequins because that's a good way to like break your serger needles, dull your knife, etc. And I decided, let me just test it because these sequins have actually been going through the machine like butter, like the regular sewing machine. It's been going really, really well, honestly. And so I was like, let's see how well the serger can handle it. I will just test a little piece on top of the cotton and see how it does. And at first I did it with the knife blade off because on most sergers, at least, you can lock the blade so that it doesn't go up and down and actually cut anything. And so I did that at first for the first piece and it went fine. And then I had some frays coming off of the cotton and I was like, let me just see, because I have not really been cutting any sequins. Like there's no sequins that need to be cut by the blade. So let me just turn on the blade so that it can cut the fray while it will still like go and serge the sequins. And it worked fine. And so I actually did all of my bodice pieces that way. You can see the serging on the side. No breakage of anything. I wasn't really cutting the sequins with the blade either, so hopefully the blade will be just fine. But that means that I've now flatlined all of my pieces, and they can all now go together and we can sew this bodice together. The other thing that I realized a little bit ago that I have not checked for is if I even have a zipper that goes with this. So I should probably check and do that, because otherwise I'm screwed, because I don't know how to buy a zipper locally, because, you know, no Joann's, and I don't think that Michael's carries that sort of thing. I don't know that I did an update on this either, but it turns out that my local Michael's is not going to carry fabric at all. Yeah, so hopefully I have a zipper that will go with this. I'm gonna go check now. Yay, purple zipper. I probably need to get more of these because I think this may be the only one that I have. But this is a 20 to 22 inch lilac invisible zipper that I got like as Joann's was clearing out. I got a whole bunch of zippers. And this is where I keep them in my friction pens. So yeah, I need to figure out, like, probably create some sort of an inventory for what colors I actually have and what I might need. And then maybe I can just kind of like bulk order a bunch of them just to have on hand. I really only use invisible zippers, and I pretty much only use either the longest size or the 7 to 9 inch if I'm just doing a skirt. So I rarely need other zippers. Like occasionally I will do a sport zipper or something like that if it is like a cosplay that's going to be really, really difficult to zip up, or I know things are going to get caught in the fabric. But I'm glad that I have this one. So once I put this bodice together, we can go ahead, attach the skirt to it, and add the zipper. I just wanted to do a quick check on the fit with the sequins before I attach the skirt. It looks good, I think, so I think we're good to attach a skirt. Everything seems good here. I am almost tempted to lower the neckline. I haven't done the finishing off here at all. In fact, that's actually the next thing I'm going to do, not attaching the skirt, just because it's easier to maneuver when I don't have a giant skirt attached to it. So I'm going to bind off the neckline and then go for skirt and then figure out sleeves. But yeah, I was tempted to lower it, but at the same time, it's like, this is coming out in winter. I don't want it to be super low because I'm going to a movie theater. And that's also the other advantage of doing a longer sleeve, even if it is a mesh sleeve, is that I can put a sweater over it. Whereas with a puff sleeve, it's hard to do that, especially with sequins where it would like get stuck on it trying to get a larger sleeve through a sweater. But yeah, the rest of this looks really good. I'm actually even kind of surprised that, like, I assumed the shoulders would be itchy. They're not itchy. I was all prepared to have to like cut away all of the sequins inside the shoulders. Right now they're doing fine. This right now where it's kind of folded in a little, that is itchy, but that will be covered by bias tape, so that's fine. So yeah, I'm gonna apply bias tape around the neckline, do that, like hand sew that so that it's all tucked away, and then attach a skirt, put the zipper in, and I will be back to you about sleeves. Oh, actually, I also nearly forgot that I wanted to show you guys this. So today I stopped off at Barnes & Noble on my way home from rehearsal because I saw online that they had the Noble Collection Glinda items, aka the wand and the crown. And I was like, oh, that would be really great. Maybe I could actually wear this all on Halloween together, kind of like as a Glinda costume with the accessories and everything. And the wand, I'm honestly pretty happy with. I do wish that it like did something, like it lit up or it had bubbles or something like that. Maybe there's a way to modify this, but I think this is a solid core, so I don't think I could actually just like put lights in it, which is kind of too bad because that would be really neat. Though I don't think hers lights up. It just would be neat to have a light up wand. But the crown, I think I'm gonna have to return it. I knew going in that it was a child size, but like I looked at it and it didn't look like a child size even when I was picking it up and looking at it in the box. Like when I pull this out, it doesn't look like a child size. It looks like the size of the rest of my tiaras. Now I have not compared this to all of my tiaras size-wise, but this looks normal. However, Glinda's crown is huge and this is not huge. It is actually so small that it like has to sit completely on top of my head. Like I can't kind of like tip it back because these come really close together, and I'm really worried that if I were to try and bend it outwards that it would all fall apart. Now I believe it is all metal. It's certainly a metal band, and I believe the rest of this is metal, but I have had it in the past where I've tried to like bend a crown out and it's just like all the soldering points have fallen apart. I don't know if I heated this up, if it would do better. Obviously Glinda's crown is supposed to be taller than this as well, but I also want this to be comfortable, and I'm wearing it to a movie theater, etc. But I think I'm gonna have to return it. It was a reasonable price. It was $20. Maybe it was $22. Same with the wand, but I mean, it's very pretty. It looks great. It's more accurate than really any of the other crowns out there for this price. And the adult version of this crown that Noble Collection is selling this year is $130, and that is insane. I'm not doing that for a costume. Even for like a cosplay, I wouldn't do that. So I don't know. I'm gonna hang on to this for now until I can find something better, but I think this is going back to Barnes & Noble. The neckline binding is all sewn on, both the machine sewing and the hand sewing. So let's go ahead and attach the skirt. The bodice is attached to the skirt, and I did finally break my first needle. It was through one of the darts in the back, so I don't even know how many layers of fabric that is going through the darts and all of the really dense gathers, because frankly, this is pulled up like as densely as can be gathered. I'm again wondering if it was a bad idea to do this on a straight panel skirt and not a circle skirt, but here we are. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the zipper in, and then I think I'm gonna try it on and see how I feel about the idea of either the fitted sleeves, which if I do the fitted sleeves, I can't do them until at least tomorrow, because that is when that mesh is supposed to get here, the lavender mesh, or if I would actually still rather do the puff sleeves, in which case I can just finish this off tonight, which would be really nice. So yeah, I'm gonna go put that invisible zip in the side and hope that it can get past all of this bulk here at the waist. The zipper is in. I'm a little bit peeved at myself, of course, that it's honestly like a tiny bit too big. Like it's less than an inch too big, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't need the zipper in this one, because unlike my jumper dress that wound up feeling a little bit snug, this one feels a little bit big. So that's annoying, because yeah, I would rather have it a little more fitted in the waist, but then I'd have to reset the entire skirt to do that. And frankly, I don't know that it will pull up any tighter gather wise, because these gathers are like pulled up as far as they can go basically. So I don't think I will be doing that, but it does annoy me a little that it is too large, just a touch at the waist. So now it brings us to the question of what kind of sleeve do I want? And I think I'm just going to play around with the sequin fabric in the mirror for a little bit and see, like, do I want it fitted? Do I want it puffed? Just try and see what I can play with it as, because I still don't know. Okay, so actually a long fitted sleeve is out. This is not long enough to get two fitted sleeves out of it. Like I could position one at that longer spot right there, but I don't think I can get the next one that close to it there, and I don't know that that'd be wide enough around at the wrist anyway. So I don't think I could get long sleeves out of this period. I think I can get a like bracelet length sleeve out of it. Of course, where I have it right now, it's long, but that's the only spot where it's long. So yeah, I think I could get a bracelet length sleeve out of it, but it's so hard to tell with right now it looking so pink, and of course having everything dangling down. But it, like this, okay, this is hard for me to say. A long sleeve might be too sparkly. I know, I never thought that I would say that something is too sparkly in my life. Like, I'm surprised at myself. But it might be too sparkly. I think it might be toned down a little bit when it is not so pink looking compared to the rest, but I won't be able to tell that till tomorrow. The other thing though is that frankly, with as much fabric as I have left, like this is half, well, I mean that's quarter, but this is half of what I have left width-wise, which means that this is all that I have the ability to put into a gathered sleeve, and that's not a very gathered sleeve on me. And then there's also the other factor of this being so kind of heavy and drapey. Yes, it's getting pulled down by the rest of this right now, which wouldn't be on there, but it is still pretty heavy and drapey, so I would have to figure out what sort of structure could go in there to create a like actual puffed sleeve and not be itchy. So maybe cotton organdy, but then that's a whole third layer because I would still need the purple cotton in here as well. So honestly, I'm leaning towards a fitted or maybe slightly puff top 3/4 sleeve, because it then feels like it's not too much sparkle and it feels like it's a good use of what I have left. I would need the mesh for it, so I'll have to wait for tomorrow for that. But I'm thinking, yeah, a little bit of gathering with then fitted and hitting about here lengthwise. I'll check back tomorrow once the mesh is here and see if that flies. Okay, so actually I pinned together a piece of the sequin and then kind of pinned it into the shoulder, and I just feel like it's making my arm look bigger than it is because of like how much it catches the light, probably. So yeah, I don't think fitted sleeve is the way to go. Also, yes, you may have noticed I've got little tucks up here. I realized that the waist was sitting a little bit low, and also again it was too big, and actually by pulling this up and like shortening the shoulder, it is not too high in the armpit, and now the waist is sitting where it ought to go, and it is fitting a lot better. So I'm going to take out a little bit of the shoulder, but I'm also not gonna do a fitted sleeve. I have, at least partially, a puffed sleeve. It's puffed up here, I promise. I still need to figure out what to do with the bottom. I keep going back and forth on whether I want to just turn the bottom edge with bias tape and run elastic through that, like as a channel right at the bottom. It's what I'm leaning towards, but there is more risk for this scratching my arm at the bottom by doing that. The other option, which eliminates most of the risk of any itchiness, would be to finish the edge of the sleeve, probably with bias tape still, but then run a separate bias tape channel about like an inch or inch and a half or so up within the sleeve, and have the bottom kind of like spread out, spray out from that elastic. I just kind of feel like this is already potentially too short of a sleeve for that. I did the biggest sleeve that I could using the sequin fabric that I had left. Like literally at this point, my sequin fabric pieces are these. And like none of these could have made the sleeves any bigger, unfortunately, not with two of them. So yeah, I think it was like 16 inches long here, 16 and a half, something like that. And it was about 28 inches around, which is not very big, at least for me, for a puffed sleeve. So they're going to be little dainty puff sleeves. I'm leaning towards the option with just the elastic at the bottom because it will give me more real estate here, and hopefully it won't scratch my arm. The sleeves are on and I am so close to finishing, but not quite. I haven't yet sewed the ends of the elastic together, which is good because the elastic is too big in both sleeves. Honestly, I think that my elastic is crappy. This was elastic that I got from Amazon like not very long ago, earlier this year, and I feel like once you feed it through the channel, it just stretches out. So I need to take about an inch out of each of the elastics, I'd say, maybe even more than an inch to be honest, because they keep just kind of slipping down my arms. Obviously, it doesn't really have the body that I would like out of a puffy sleeve, but we do get a little bit of puff, so I think that's going to be okay. The other thing that I may wind up having to do at some point at least is that the seam allowances inside the bust here, they just don't want to stay flat. And so what I was noticing was like this seam allowance in particular was like getting itself on end, basically like pushing itself against me because it's sequins, it's stiff, you know, and making the bust just look really weird. So I may actually wind up having to kind of like whip stitch that down from inside just so that it doesn't wind up looking weird every time I go to put it on. But once I do the sleeve elastics, like sew those off and also cut off all of my gathering threads because I have a lot of gathering threads on here. I don't like to cut those until I'm sure of something. So once I do that and maybe do the whipping down of the bust, the dress is gonna be done. So I will show you the reveal in a moment. I'm definitely very happy with how this dress came out. I think it looks super cute. Honestly, I am tempted to not take this off for today. I'll probably take the wig off because I have to go give Cookie a walk and I have rehearsal and stuff like that. I was bummed that while I was shooting the reveal footage, the sun was non-existent, so I couldn't show you what it actually looks like in the sunlight. If it turns out that the sun is shining at some point before this video comes out, I will try to get a little bit more footage and intersperse it here. But I do love how it came out. There is one thing though that I am noticing that is not something that I can fix, frankly, without doing some weird modifications, in that my sleeves, oh, it's doing it right now. My sleeves get stuck to my bodice. The sequins lock themselves in together. It undid, but the sequins lock themselves in together and they get stuck to the bodice. So I noticed that a bunch while taking pictures. I don't know how to fix that. So, I mean, I could put some sort of like a mesh or organza or something like that over in like the undersleeve or side of bodice area. That would be the only way that I would know of that could fix it. And probably not mesh, honestly, because that would still probably get caught. It would probably have to be organza. And I don't know that I love that idea, so I think I'm just going to have to be aware of the fact that I might get stuck on myself. It does come undone really quite easily, so not a big deal, but that is a thing that happens. But yeah, honestly, I love everything about this. It's actually really comfortable. It is not itchy anywhere, which I was really worried about, but no, it's not. Like, I was able to put the bias on the sleeves so that the bias itself is really the only thing touching my arm. Like, I actually didn't fold it over quite as much as I normally would. Normally, I would bring a little bit of the outer material in with it, so that outer material would wrap around and you wouldn't see the bias at all. But really, if you look very closely here, you can actually see the bias right at the edge, and I did that so that the sequins would not touch my arm and therefore scratch me. But even the various places where it's like exposed, like in the shoulders, or I mean really I guess the shoulders and the armpits are the only place where it's exposed because I do wear camisole, so everything else is like covered, but the shoulders and the armpits, they're not itchy, so I'm really excited about that. I was actually able to stretch out the crown too, so this is the one from Barnes & Noble. I stretched it out quite a good deal. At first I was doing it using heat because I was thinking like, oh, it will soften the metal. I don't think that was actually necessary because then I did it some more without using heat and it did just fine, even able to fit over the wig. So that was really good. And actually I think this wig looks really good for Glinda, so I'm just gonna have to remember that my Aurora wig is also a good Glinda wig for when it comes time for me to make the actual cosplays. But yeah, I love this. Again, I don't really want to take it off. It's completely weather inappropriate today because it is cold and might rain later, I think. But it's really cute and I like it, and I think I might wear it to rehearsal tonight. So overall, although we had a little bit of like growing pains going through the project, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I would definitely recommend making yourself a sparkly dress for no apparent reason. Whether you're going to see the opening of a movie or you just want to wear sparkles, just do it because it's really fun. It's really joyful. So just do it and make yourself happy. And honestly, it wasn't even hard to sew with. That was the thing that surprised me most. These sequins were actually so easy to sew with. Only one broken needle the entire project. Like, that is a success. So hopefully you have enjoyed this project as much as I have. If you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. Also, don't forget to sign up for the Ireland trip. All of the information is linked down below in the description. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with a sewing vlog like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content, especially shorts, out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean, Kim, and the Dowager Duchess Isabel Thompson. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!